good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you might be. But this is probably a good chance we're close to morning for just about everybody. We're broadcasting a little earlier than we normally do for events such as this. So this is pretty early for musicians too, isn't this like 3 for musicians on the
Absolutely.
clock? So. This is afternoon for you guys, but for the rest of us, I want to say good morning to everyone. I'm really excited to be with all of you this morning here. Got a couple of great colleagues and friends. Michael being my newest friend. Just met him a few days ago, but really excited to be with all of you. We've got a really wonderful broadcast set up today, and we're hoping to see maybe a few more join. I have disabled the wait room, so folks that are coming in a little later should be able to jump right in and join us. And we've set aside a full 2 hours this morning to talk about music and its healing abilities. And we've got a couple of great presenters today. Let's go ahead and get things started. I'm going to go through just a few introductory slides, and then I'll take these slides down, and we're gonna go from there. I think Mike and Dave are going to play a piece after they introduce themselves a bit more and kind of set things up for today. But let me go through these introductory slides. My name is Steve Steiny. I'm one of the managers here at the American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center located here at the University of Iowa. I'm broadcasting to you live from the University of Iowa campus here at the College of Public Health. And I'm noticing some familiar names and faces. I want to give a shout out to Jim Weichel. Good morning, Jim. Jim is one of our consultants and one of our advisory council members. Jim, happy to have you on. I see Doug B is on here too. They'll let anybody into this group, I guess. I don't know how you got past security, but that's fine. You're here.
Yeah.
It's just great to see some familiar names. I really want to again just um, give you my appreciation for you guys taking some time out of your Monday morning to be with us, and I am absolutely thrilled and honored to be hosting the event today. So let's go ahead and push through these introductory slides and then get on to the good stuff. So welcome to Music is Healing, the evolution of the nature of sound as a healing source. Got David Nansaway and Michael Bogart here today to share with you. As most of you may know, this event is brought to you by the National American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center, which, as I mentioned, is located at the University of Iowa. We are part of a larger national network made up of 10 regional centers, a national Hispanic and Latinx center, as well as a ATTC network coordinating office located at the University of Missouri. This project is funded by SAMHSA, and the content is developed by the presenters, and the opinions and subject matter expressed today do not necessarily reflect the views or policies of SAMHSA, HHS, or the National American Indian Alaska Native ATTC. Following today's event, we will reach out to you. I'll check with Dave and Mike and see about what we might be able to share with you via email as far as slides go. We are recording today's event, so we'll make that recording available in our YouTube archive here at our Native Center for Behavioral Health. And in that follow-up, there'll also be an opportunity for you to request CEUs. We're going to try and offer 2 NADAC approved CEUs for today's event. You must respond, though, through the follow-up email in order to be eligible to receive those CEUs. So keep your eyes peeled for a follow-up email. And if you're interested in getting CEUs, use that as a way to communicate with our support staff here so that they know you're interested in getting CEUs. And I've been told to just be patient with us, allow for a 4 to 6 week turnaround time on getting those CEUs. If you are under some sort of time frame to submit CEUs for a licensure or certification, reach out to me directly and I'll see if we can expedite that. And lastly, I'll post it in the chat box today, but we'll also post a link to a short survey in this follow-up email. You don't have to answer this survey, but we really would appreciate your feedback. We've also added a couple of short answer features to this survey so we can hear from you in your own words. You can skip any questions you would like, and this survey cannot be linked to you in any way. It is completely confidential. So just wanted to share some of that with you. I know we're gathered here virtually today, but I do want to take a few moments to acknowledge the land and pay respect to the indigenous nations whose homelands were forcibly taken and inhabited. Please take a few moments to read this land acknowledgement that was created by 3 former members of our team from the Meskwaki and Winnebago nations, Ella and Keely Driscoll and Mr. Sean Bear. Thank you. Well, without further ado, I want to just briefly introduce, and I'm going to let these guys talk a little bit more about who they are and why they're here today. But I have my colleague and my friend Dave Natsaway. Dave is a consultant with our center here and is also part of our advisory council. I've known Dave now for about 3 years, and he is just a great resource, and I've learned a lot from him during this time. And he really is the driving force. He and Mike are the driving force behind this idea to do this presentation today. So, David, really glad you're here, and I'm going to let you speak here in a moment a little bit more about who you are and why you're here. And also, Mike Bogart. Dave and Mike know each other. And Dave, I think, had to bribe Mike to be here today, but I think it worked out. Large sums of cash or something, but yes, Mike Bogart is here. Mike is a professional musician, and he and Dave are both Navy veterans. So, gosh, I've really gotten to know, really appreciate getting to know Mike a little bit. If you ever meet someone, sometimes it happens to me where I meet somebody and I have this feeling like I've met them before somewhere, somehow. And Mike is one of those people. So thank you so much, Mike, for being here. And again, I'm going to let Mike and Dave talk a little bit more about themselves and as we get started today. So I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to take this down, guys, this slide deck down, and get ready with the next set of slides. But I'm going to turn the floor over to Dave and Mike at this point. So thank you.
Well, Steve, it's amazing what you can get somebody to do with a little bit of fry bread. Yeah, so Kwatsi, Sehopa, Sawajamache. My name is Dave Natsaway. I'm from the Pueblo of Laguna. My maternal clan is Parrot Clan, and paternal clan is a Little Bear Clan. My Indian name is Guesiwa, which is, the way it was described to me was, it's the motion that the parrot has when he starts to take flight. So I try to keep that, I keep that in mind, and try to live my life like that, always venturing to do something, and to try different things and go different places. So we met. I was a Navy musician for over 20 years, and that's how I met Mike. We were stationed together in Japan, and the way this, when this came about, it was originally an idea that we had at the beginning of this whole COVID thing. The prevention, the PTTC asked if there was a possibility that I could do a music is healing, but I did not know how it was going to be, how we could do it over a Zoom format, because I'm only used to doing it live. And as we've recently discovered, the challenges it takes to do a music demonstration in the Zoom format. Technically, it's very difficult. So in order to get some of the things across, we had to just take a step back and just videotape everything. And so throughout the presentation, Steve will be playing the instrument demonstrations and some of the other stuff that we did. And so it's good to be here finally.
Steve know that?
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Okay.
And I'm very happy to have my friend Mike Bogart here. He, when this idea started coming about and I started thinking about it, he's the first person that popped into my head to help me out with this, and he has a history in behavioral health and in music. So I'll let him go ahead and introduce himself, and we'll continue on from there.
Thank you so much, Dave. And everybody you can see us, right? Because we see Steve's screen share and it's just the first slide. Okay, awesome. Fantastic. Okay, Shalom, Boker Tov, Ani Michael Ben Avraham. Greetings, peace, good morning. My name is Mike Bogart. I come from the nation of Israel, from the tribe of Israel. My ancestors are from Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. We were colonized and displaced by the Anglo-Roman Empire, wandered around the globe for many centuries, survived many attempts at genocide, but we maintained our culture and our language and our spiritual beliefs. And in 1948, we were returned back to our land, a land which is vital to our spiritual beliefs. As Dave mentioned, I'm also a Navy musician. I retired after 20 years of combined service time. I have broken service, 18 of which were spent as a Navy musician, and 2 years I spent as a substance abuse counselor, working at a 28-day residential treatment program in Point Loma, San Diego. Dave and I were stationed together in, did you mention it? Dave and I were stationed together at 7th Fleet in Japan, which was a duty station that was very close to both of our hearts. My daughter was born there, and
my son was born there.
His son was born there. So Japan has a lot of also special meaning for us. And fortunately, we, through the magic of social media, we've been able to stay in touch, and Dave has come out and seen me perform. So since I already sort of alluded to it, but I spent 10 years as a Navy musician, and then I got out of the Navy and I joined a soul band that was formed in 1968 in Oakland, California, called Tower of Power. And I toured and recorded with Tower of Power for 9 years, from 2000 to 2009. And then in 2009, the Navy reached out to me and they said, hey, we'll offer you a promotion. If you want to come back in, you only have to do 10 more years and you can retire. And after talking with the band leader for Tower of Power and getting his blessing, I decided to leave the band and go back in the Navy. And so that's what I did. I retired in 2019. And I was called after I retired and I moved back to California. I made contact with Tower of Power and said, hey, if you ever need a sub, I'm back in California, I'm available. They called, I was only supposed to sub for a week. And then after the second show, the band asked me if I wanted to rejoin the band. So I've been back as a full member of Tower of Power now for a year and 1 month. And I'm very, very happy. And I'm so happy that they've invited me and reached out to me and asked me to do this, because this is a topic that has always been very near and dear to my heart.
Okay. Yeah, so me and Mike, we in Japan together, we also, outside of the Navy, we also did some playing with a couple of other bands in Tokyo area with Eric Miyashiro big band and Tom Pearson big band. So we had a lot of musical collaboration in a short amount of time, because we had a short overlap. I think when I got to Japan in '96, in the front part of '96, he actually got transferred out the same year, but later on that year. But it's those musical connections, they last forever,
Yeah.
And as far as like the healing part of music, it's one of the things my grandfather used to tell me, because as kids, we all grow up, we play sports or do other things in school, but he always told me that music it's okay to do those things, but the one thing about music, it's going to last your entire life. It'll be a part of you for your entire life. And I come from a family of musicians. I have siblings that are music teachers in the public system. My wife is a music teacher. My daughter is a music teacher. My son is studying music.
And he's really good too.
And my parents were musicians. My grandparents were musicians. So if you ever look up the world famous Santa Fe Indian Band, that's where my parents were part of that band, and they were sponsored by the Santa Fe Railroad when the Santa Fe Railroad came through the pueblos, built through their land. The agreement was the Santa Fe had to hire the Laguna people. And so what they ended up doing is they displaced reservation members along the rail line in Gallup, Winslow, Barstow, Richmond, and they set up Laguna colonies in all the rail yards in these places. And Winslow just happened to form a band, and the Santa Fe had them tour up and down the rail line. So, and they performed at Eisenhower's inauguration. And so this is the legacy that we are charged with to carry on. And my grandfather was right. Music is definitely been a stable source in my life. It's something that I can always rely on, to ground me and to bring me around. So Steve, let's go ahead and get into the slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to let Mike introduce this one. So this is
well, actually, why don't we just let him play a little bit of it first, and then I'll talk about it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Can you go ahead and play the music now?
All right. Hang on
Awesome.
to your hats, everyone. I'm gonna try and be the technical person here. So
Share sound.
yes, share sound is on. So thank you very much, Mike. I'm gonna go ahead and start this, and then Mike, I'll fade it out around 2:12, like we talked about, or 2:14. Okay.
And if you have headphones, that would be optimal. Yeah.
Yes, I don't have mine here, but if any of the listeners have headphones, or you can turn the volume up a little bit, we would encourage that. Okay, here we go.
listening, all of you that listen to this, and thank you for playing it, Steve. So this is a piece of music. So at the end of the pandemic, the music industry, there wasn't a whole lot going on. And so I used my veterans preference hiring practice and was able to get hired working in counseling at a youth treatment center run by IHS, Indian Health Service, in Davis, California, called Sacred Oaks Healing Center. And it's a youth addictions treatment center that is tasked with treating American Indian and Alaska Native youths aged 12 to 17. So when I started working there, I was still playing, but not really playing a whole lot. Well, one morning, I woke up and I'd had a dream about Savannah Greywind, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with the case. It was a horrific case. A young 22-year-old Dakota Sioux woman living in Fargo was abducted and murdered by her two white neighbors. Who she was 8 months pregnant at the time, and they removed the baby from her. And it was one of the few MMIWG cases that actually made headlines. Unfortunately, as most of us know, most of the cases never even make it past local news. But this one actually did make big headlines, and I knew about it, of course, but I hadn't necessarily thought about the case in a long time. So I don't know really why I woke up having had a dream about Savannah, but accompanying this dream when I woke up was that initial piano, that 3-note motif. And so I sat down at my piano and I started writing this music. And so over the course of the next 2 days, I recorded all the instruments, and the portion that you heard is just the beginning of a longer piece. And I finished composing it and writing it and recording it in about 2 days. And I had done a little bit of research on Savannah Greywind's life, and I'd found that her Dakota Sioux name was Where Thunder Finds Her. And I thought that was absolutely beautiful and very fitting to the piece of music. And I wanted to title the music using her Dakota Sioux name, but I didn't want to do it without her permission, the permission of her family. So I was able to reach out on Facebook and met with, virtually met with her sister, and I shared an MP3 of the recording. She shared it with their mom, and they gave me their blessing to use Where Thunder Finds Her as the title of this piece. So that's the background on this piece of music. And again, thank you all for listening to it. And I hope maybe it kind of helped set the tone maybe a little bit for what Dave and I are about to present.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve.
You guys want me to?
Yeah, just go ahead and advance to the next slide.
Yeah, next slide. Thank you.
Okay. So what we wanted to do is just kind of, since a lot of the original presentation was a lot of playing and less talking, this Zoom format kind of didn't allow for that. So we're gonna explain a little more about like where the nature of sound, and I use the term nature because where music comes from, from our mother, from Mother Earth, and the way the cultures have used Mother Earth and are in tune with the vibrations of the earth. So just a brief just explanations or definitions of the nature of sound. So like we mentioned before, me and Mike, we were in the Navy music program, and the first thing we do after boot camp is they send us to the Navy School of Music, which is located in Little Creek, Virginia, and they give us the basic music textbook. and the very first thing in it is the nature of sound. So I thought, okay, this is where I'm going to draw it from. And I even called over to the school and kind of laid that on them. And it was, they, you know, there was a couple of chuckles in there, but we said, yeah, that's, you know, that's a good way to start, you know. So, so this is just the definition that comes straight out of from naval education and training, you know, for music. And from what I understand is that the curriculum that they gave us at that time is kind of based off of a curriculum that was developed at the Berklee School of Music. And so as we look at music, we listen to music, and the nature of sound, the nature of the vibration, it varies depending on the source, whatever that vibration is coming from. So everything has a cycle, a vibration cycle. It doesn't matter what it is, you know, if you hit it and it vibrates at a certain frequency. So so one of the things about like if you're to take if you look at a guitar string, so that's why I put the picture on the slide as a sine wave. And so if you can relate it to a stringed instrument like a guitar, you know, if you were to look at when you hit a guitar string, and if you're to look at it in slow motion, and I'm sure there's plenty of videos like that on YouTube, but you can see that sine wave. And the lower the pitch, the slower that sine wave is going to be. The faster the pitch, the faster there's going to be more crests and valleys. So
I wonder if this would be a good place to talk about like the relationship with the human body and the water makeup. Okay, so one of the things that, and again, you know, we may have mentioned at the top of this, the opinions expressed in this are entirely, David, my own. I'm certainly not a professional biologist. I'm not a professional physicist in any way, shape, or form. So these are entirely my own opinions. But I'm doing a little bit of research for many years on one of the things that always sort of astounded me was you know, I would, as a young musician coming up and not being very good, I would find myself in a position playing with musicians who were much better than me. And all of a sudden my own playing would rise to their level. Or I would be sitting next to a great mentor, like my friend and great trumpet player, Bobby Shue, and he would be trying to show me something, and it would get imparted to me without him really explaining physically what it was he was doing, just by sitting next to him. So one of the things that I've learned is that the human body is 63% water and the brain is about 73% water. And if you look at, you can find YouTube footage of like the way that sound waves and how the waves, you know, from something emanating sound interact with water. They can produce some absolutely beautiful patterns. So I came to this conclusion that in being in these situations where I was playing with musicians who were at a better, you know, the higher level than me, or sitting next to a mentor who was at a higher level than me, my body was actually physically absorbing the sound that was coming around me and changing in ways that wasn't, you know, this is a completely bright brain activity. It's not, there's no analyzing taking place. There's no books showing me what notes to play. You know, it's just completely like my body is reacting to the sound waves because there's so much water in here, and water is such a great conductor of sound waves. In fact, it's been proven that, you know, the way that whales transmit communication can be like hundreds of miles. At least I hope it's hundreds of miles. I don't want to, you know, put any information out there, but I know it's a very long distance, and the frequencies are extremely low because they transfer so well through the water. So that's just kind of my own personal take on, you know, the vibrations and the nature of sound and how it's affected me personally.
Yeah. So one of the things about I think about what Mike was just talking about, the vibration and the feeding off of it, when he's talking about sitting next to somebody he's getting the influence in. So, you know, Mike's been staying with me for a few days here, you know, as we've been putting this together. And so he's got to run his tower power set, so I get a personal concert I get a personal lead trumpet concert, every day. So
as do his neighbors.
Yeah. So I noticed, like, the first day he was here, he ran his set. And then the next day he spent the day with Bobby Shue. And then he ran his set last night. And I heard a difference. I definitely heard a difference. And I just asked him, I said, so how do you feel? And he said he felt pretty good. And I said, because it sounds like you feel really good. And he accredited that because he spent the day sitting next to that other person, and absorbing those sound waves and that energy. So so yes, in a way, that's a healing property, and we were trying to decipher. And it's just, he came into a new environment, he's at a new altitude, and it took some help to adapt to the environment. And so that's really cool how things work.
It's great that you got to observe that, and thank you for
Yeah.
the feedback.
Yeah, I definitely heard it. And so
thank you, Bobby. Yoda, the Yoda of trumpet.
yeah, I'm not sure if is he on.
Oh, I don't know. I don't.
Yeah,
think
we were
so.
hoping he would jump on, but so going with the that whole the frequency thing, let's move to the next slide. Okay.
Oh yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, so like the slide says, planets, they have a natural frequency. So our Earth has the electromagnetic field. Our Earth has a vibration frequency. And so the frequency, the natural frequency, the pulsation, and this is the science part of it, it vibrates at 7.83 hertz. And interestingly enough, our alpha waves in our brain, there's five brain waves, and the one in the center, the alpha wave, is at the exact same 7.83 hertz. So and what that alpha wave is our calm, our natural calm state.
Weren't you telling me that it was like the state, like right above meditation?
Yeah, it's the calm, and it's the consciousness right above meditation. And so it's a new thing that I recently learned, and just it came to light. And the other day I was driving down the street, and people were just frantically driving all over, and all of a sudden I just thought, I wish everybody would just alpha out, so
and it's funny because as you just said that, I was just thinking, how did the term alpha male come? Because it's like almost the antithesis of alpha. I am an alpha male because I meditate every day.
Yeah. So so that's so with when the EEG, when they monitor brain waves, it just the alpha wave is the exact same as Mother Earth, so so the alpha, it induces relaxation, and it's but not quite that meditative state. So it's the state where we begin to tap into the wealth of creativity, and it lies just below the conscious awareness. So that's, as we look, just being out in nature, one of the things I like to do is hike up in the Sandias, or there's a lot of paths out there. And when I'm out there, I just feel really, really calm, really in tune with what's going on around me. And this interesting thing happened to me while I was out there one day. And this happened right before COVID was going on. It was like a few months before the whole COVID thing started to happen. I was out there, and it was a breezy day, like, it was normally like I experienced other breezy days out there. But this particular day, when I got out there, I noticed there was a humming sound around going through the rocks and everything. And as I started to walk south and started to walk around the side of the foothills, it got even stronger. And so I stopped and I listened, and it was moving. it was moving all around different areas around me. And it was a humming, whistling sound. And it was, so I'm thinking it's the wind going through the rocks. But then I've been out there since, and it's the same wind, but I don't hear that same humming sound, that same whistling sound. So I always go out there and I always make my offerings and prayer. So that day, it was a prayer for understanding. Something is happening, something is going to happen, and I just give me the strength to understand, and the optimism, and to whatever the creator has coming. Let us be accepting of whatever the creator is going to present us. And then shortly, then a few months later, that's when all this COVID thing happened. So it was a really spiritual thing for me to experience that, because I have not heard it since.
Wow.
And it was at first, it was it was kind of scary at first, but then I realized, where I am, and our Mother Earth is here to protect us, provide for us, give us everything that we need to survive, and the earth gives us, it gives us those warning signs. And so that's the best that I can think of what I was experiencing out there. So very, very powerful, very interesting, that the things that our mother provides for us in that healing concept.
I wonder if this might not be a bad place to relate the story of when I started spending time out in the woods.
Yeah,
when I was 7.
definitely.
So, like Dave just talked about, the how the Mother Earth will provide for us and provide healing for us. I have a direct experience with that as well. So when I was about 7 years old, my family moved from Chicago to the woods of Western Michigan, to the beautiful farming community just about a quarter of a mile from the lake, from Lake Michigan. When I was 8, about a year later, my mother and father had to go back to Chicago to take care of some business. So I was staying with my grandmother. And this was very, very rural area. The road that I grew up on, it was a dirt road for many, many years, since been paved. But at that time, it was just dirt gravel road. On either side of the road were fields, cornfields, and a grazing area for cattle that was part of the original farm that my grandfather started. So they left me, and I had to walk back to, they left me with my grandmother, and I had to walk back to our house because I had chores that I had to take care of. I had to feed the chickens. And so I was 8, and I was walking down the dirt road heading to home. And all of a sudden I heard a sound, and it was like a revving of an engine. And the last thing I remember is turning around and seeing the bumper of a car. I was run over by a drunk driver, and she dragged me 70 feet underneath her car before her delayed reaction time even registered that she had hit something. I have no conscious memory of the accident itself. And my uncle came running out of the farmhouse when she finally realized. She got out of the car, started running towards the first house that was in view, which happened to be my uncle's house, screaming, "I just killed a little boy." And I was the only little boy that lived on the road. So my uncle came out, and he says that I was pulling myself out from underneath the car. So I was immediately rushed to the hospital. That's the first conscious memory that I have is being there. And the doctors said that the force of the impact, the speed she was going, I mean, I was wearing Chuck Taylors. It knocked my Chuck Taylors off and threw them like half a football field away into my uncle's cornfield. They said that the speed she was going, the force of the impact should have killed me, or at the very least caused massive internal damage, possibly a fractured spine. I was treated and released in 48 hours for minor bruising on my back and some scrapes on my arm from apparently pulling myself out from underneath the car. Shortly after I got back home, and I grew up in an alcoholic home. So if you're working addictions, either as a counselor or if you have experience yourself personally, I don't need to tell you what growing up in an alcoholic home is like. So my safe place for me after that accident was out in the woods. And I immediately started to feel like protected and cared for. And I knew that there was something that was keeping an eye out for me, something that was watching over me and protect me. And I couldn't put a name to it. But I just knew that it was there. And that was my safe place for several years until I discovered music. And then music sort of became my refuge and my safe place after that. And music allowed me to leave that home for long stretches of time during the summer, during my junior years in high school, junior year of high school. And music allowed me to finally eventually leave completely when I was 14 and attend a boarding school of the performing arts. And then eventually college, and then the Navy. Everything that has come into my life as a direct result of this gift that I've been given to play music. But before I found the refuge of music, my refuge was the woods. And there was definitely something that was giving me this feeling that I was protected and that I was safe out in the woods. And I've never forgotten that. That's remained with me my entire life.
Yeah. So getting out into nature, it's very protective. It allows, it allows us to be in tune with the earth and the earth's frequency, and it heals. It revitalizes. Absolutely. And it heals, and it can restore the calm. So Steve, next slide, please. Yeah, so what I just said.
Yeah.
So so humans knowing this, they have learned over, the ancient people, they have discovered ways to, and created ways to imitate sounds of nature to bring into their ceremonial practices. And we have a video that we're going to demonstrate these instruments. We wanted to do these demonstrations live, but the technology doesn't like us live. So Steve,
should we talk a little bit about the video before he plays it?
Yeah, is this where we're going to play the video, or?
Yeah, I've got the two instrumentals demos, and then I've got the other one that just that's you had put Mike's song on.
Oh, we don't need to.
No,
we already played that. So
yeah, we already played that one.
It's a different link. It's one you had sent me called Bogey's song.
Okay, so the one we're gonna do next will be the instrument demo.
Okay,
this is the one starting with us playing the didgeridoos.
Yeah. Okay. So before we play that, I'll just explain that like all cultures around the world, in human history, have spiritual paths to pain and suffering, and nature is a healing source. So man has created a way to imitate these sounds and bring them into ceremonial practices. And we, in the video, we demonstrate some of these things. So I'll just talk briefly about what's going to be in the video. So we open it up playing our attempt to play didgeridoo. And so the didgeridoos originated in the northern part of Australia, in the Aboriginal communities in the northern part of Australia. And the particular didgeridoos that I have, I don't know if you can see them, they're sitting behind me over here. One, I in Darwin, Australia, in the Northern Territory, and then the other one I picked up in Townsville, Australia. And the larger of the two, the darker of the two, you'll see in the video. Apparently, this particular didgeridoo was very special to the people in that area, the people that had opportunities to play. And I picked it up from a guy that was just sitting in a tent, and he had didgeridoos, and he was just, for sale. And so I just started talking to him about the history of the didgeridoo and things. Well, the Navy band is what took us down there to Australia, and so I picked this one up, and he was going, "Oh yeah, mate, that's a very special one." A lot of people like that one, but nobody wanted to take it because, like tourists or whatever, they didn't want it to, because it was so big, and he taught me a little bit, and I played a little bit of it, and just the sound that it had. And I told him, I said, this one chose me. So I'm going to get this. I'm going to take this one. And when it made him happy, and when he knew I was going to take it, he started calling people, the people in the area that liked that didgeridoo, and they all came over and started to play it. They wanted to play it one more time before it went on its next journey, So I thought that was really cool that the 4 or 5 people came up from up the road, and sat down and played. And I mean, just to watch them, the meditative power of the didge sound, and they, it's very special, when they played it. And these guys, they play didgeridoo. I don't I don't play very well. I can't circular breathe. So it's very difficult. So as a bass trombone player, my air capacity, I can play it for a long time. I just can't circular breathe through it like they can, And so they taught me different sounds, and sounds from nature, the things that they imitate. So
How when did didgeridoos first come up about, and can you talk a little bit about what kind of plant it's from and how it gets created?
So the didge is usually a tree trunk or a tree branch, and they're naturally made. They're not carved out. They're naturally carved out by termites.
Which is interesting. So there's like a symbiotic relationship that happens between the termites and this piece of living tree,
right,
that creates that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's one of the oldest instruments recorded. So there's cave paintings in Australia that date back to 40,000 BC, that they can date these paintings back to.
Wait, 40,000 BC.
Yeah.
Wrap your mind around that.
Yeah. So, and they're used in ceremonies to, they'll pull the shaman, or they'll pull the listener into a trance-like state, or what they call the dream time. They'll pull them into dream time. So they're also used for cleaning and rebalancing a person's energy field. Just by the way of it's the vibrations, it stimulates and the chakra, and it's like a sedative, like a natural sedative, and it has to do, like, if you think about like the acupuncture, the vibrating lip in the didgeridoo, there's the meridians in the lips for that are used in acupuncture. Playing a didgeridoo has that same effect, with the vibrations in helping the person center and meditate. So the health benefits, it allows to just free up energy, life energy, and help it flow a little more freely. I'm sorry, I had to take notes, because of all the tech problems that we had. I had to do a lot of stuff on pencil and paper. So sorry, Steve. So and the breathing, the amount of air that it takes to play a didge, it's it's cleansing. It cleanses the lungs, and then the breathing through the nose, it cleans the mucous membranes of all the bad energy, and then the vibration from the instrument itself, it shakes it. What they say, the way they describe it, it shakes loose, like on the internal organs, it shakes loose all the crystallization, and it frees up the function, the body function, you know. So one of the other things that we're going to demonstrate is singing bowls, and those originated like pre-Buddhist shaman from Bonpo culture of the Himalayas. So they're referred to as resting bowls or resting gongs, and date back to the Bronze Age in China for about 4,000 years ago. Let's see, used for meditation and in sound healing. One of the disclaimers I wanted to mention earlier, but I'll mention now, is that we're not music therapists. We're just we're addiction therapists, but musicians as well. But and we've used music in our lives as a healing source. But we're not certificated music therapists. So we just are speaking from our own experience and our own research. So so one of the interesting things about the singing bowls is they resonate for a long time, and what this long period of resonation creates. Earlier we talked about the vibration of the earth and how our alpha waves are in tune with the same hertz as the earth. The singing bowl, when meditating and listening to the singing bowl, it even slows the hertz, it slows the vibration down even lower. And the vibrations go slower, so it can put you into that meditative state, so you become even more relaxed. It slows down the brain activity into what they call the theta range, the theta brainwave range. So the next thing, one of the other things we'll demonstrate is, and I'll do this one, on the video I do this, the human voice. So the human voice in Native culture is the songs, and the songs are prayer, and when you get the mixture of the drum and the voice, that is it transcends into meditation and prayer, and as we all, as we know, and it is self-healing, and you can soothe yourself by singing, yourself, and we all know a tune, and I guess it doesn't matter what tune it is,
You can even do it you just hum. You can just hum wordlessly. It doesn't even have to.
Yeah. So that is a soothing, it's a healing thing. And and then combined with a drum for Native communities, it represents the heartbeat of the earth, and it's used in prayer, and it represents the cycle of life as well, for two-legged and four-legged, just the heartbeat, the sound of the drum, the drone of the drum, and that's why, like, when we get into a video that's going to happen at the end, it's the way I feel it is when I play and I stand both feet, touched, connected with the earth, and I feel these long tones, like the vibration of the earth, or the instrument that I'm playing. When I tune into these long tones, that is very meditative to me, so when I hear songs that have long sustained tones, it takes me to a different place. And it may be why when you hear slow songs on the radio or wherever that have long sustained tones, that's what makes them so calming and so attractive, you know. Um, um, and I guess everybody, like I said in the beginning, everybody can interpret it the way they interpret it. You know, it's not just, there's not just one set of criteria. It's however it makes you feel, you know. So
Can I
yeah,
relate something, circle back just a little bit?
yeah,
Because what you were just talking about, you know, song and singing, and then also wordless melody. It reminded me of a story. So in my religious and spiritual tradition of Judaism, um, we had a movement that started in the 1700s called the Hasidic movement. And the founder of it was the Baal Shem Tov, who literally translates as to the master of the great name. So the Baal Shem Tov was kind of a mystical dude. You know, he was very well learned, but he spent a lot of time out in the woods communing with nature. And the woods, and especially when he was a young child, you know, was really where he kind of became in tune with God, with the oneness. So anyhow, the story is told how the Baal Shem Tov later on, you know, he's already a rabbi and he's very revered. He walked into a synagogue, a little synagogue, and this is all in the Pale of Europe, the Eastern Europe. You know, we're talking about Lithuania, Ukraine, you know, that area right there. He walked into a little village synagogue, and the Jews in there were, you know, they were praying, and they were praying with a lot of feeling and a lot of heart, but the prayers just weren't. He walked in and he could see the prayers were getting stuck. They weren't ascending. And the Baal Shem Tov was very intuitive. He could sense these things, and he was thinking, why are these prayers getting stuck, you know? And then all of a sudden there was a little boy came in, and he didn't know his Hebrew letters. He didn't know any of the words to the prayers. He was a little Jewish boy, but he didn't have any knowledge, no knowledge at all. He wasn't raised with any knowledge of the ceremony or of Hebrew. And all this little boy had was this little whistle, a little wooden whistle, but he wanted to participate. He wanted to participate in the prayer. He was so caught up. So the little boy put the whistle in his lips and started playing along, just whatever he played. And all of a sudden, the Baal Shem Tov said, the heavens opened up and the prayers ascended the way they were supposed to. And, you know, I think the lesson in this is that you know, sometimes we get stuck with the words. Sometimes the words are not enough. And sometimes it takes something that is not necessarily verbalized or put into words, that can allow our prayers to be able to ascend and to be heard by whatever entity is listening to our prayers. And I just thought that was a beautiful story. And that's what, you know, when you were talking about singing, and that's what it reminded me of. And I hadn't thought about that story for a very long time. So thank you, Dave.
yeah. And you know, and I think that as children, you know, I think it's important for children to be introduced to this and involved in the music in some way. You know, when like in native cultures, you know, if you grow up around it, your experience, you know, that you hear it, you'll hear it. You know, most of the people will, you know, they'll hear it. But as a counselor, you know, when I was working as a counselor at behavioral health at the Pueblo of Laguna, I did have clients that had never participated, and it baffled me, you know, that a person could grow up right there in the village and the ceremonies take place right next to them and them not participate or not know anything about it, you know. And it made me kind of curious, you know, about maybe that's why they're involved in the legal system, you know, because they're missing a part of that in their lives, you know. But it is a very healing process, you know. So So when I sing the song later, so the drum that I'm going to use, I'm going to demonstrate an eagle song, a song I heard when I was a child, and it's been in my head, every day of my life, So the drum that I use is kind of a long journey of how I acquired this drum, which happened recently. So when I was started thinking about this, and demonstrating, I was looking for, I wanted a drum, so I put out, I started asking around, so, I started asking my sisters, and I think my oldest sister Denise is on this web, but so, I sent a message out to them, and so they offered information and of where I might look, and then I ran into another friend that I met that's from the Pueblo, Opal Paquin, and she was thinking about it, and so she was putting her energy into it. And then I have my other sister, my first cousin, Berta Mactaima. I talked to her, and she got me in touch with her son that lives up in Santa Clara, Pueblo, and he got me in touch with a man in Cochiti, Pueblo, Glenn Shalon, who is comes from a family of drum makers, and so it was a long journey to get to this, and I got in contact with Glenn, and he invited me out to the Pueblo, to his house, and he was waiting for me when I drove up. He had his garage door open, and many drums he has made, and they're all there, of all different sizes, from little tiny drums to the great big powwow ceremonial drums, and so when he was asking me, he goes, what are you looking for? What kind of drum are you looking? And I told him, I'm going to look around and play a few. And I said, I believe that the drum is going to choose me. I am not going to choose the drum, so I sat out there for a few hours, and we played drums, and we talked about the spirituality of the drum and everything. And then, the drum, it made its appearance. It was an older one that he had made that was sitting way back, in the shelf. And I pulled it down, and we played it, and I put it out in the sun and let the skins heat up a little bit and tighten up. And we played it, and it was very, very beautiful, very nice. But he explained to me, that what he does when he from the aspen tree, the shell of the drum is made from the aspen tree. And, when I was explaining to him, like the didgeridoo, the way the didgeridoo is formed by the termites, he said what he does is he looks for the aspen trees that have, they've already died, and the ones that have been struck by lightning and started to rot out in the middle, they're already hollowed out, and they're hollowed out by nature. And he'll cut those trees, but first he has to get permission. He has to get permission to go up and harvest the trees, and then he talks to the creator, and thanks, and then to get permission as well, and then thanks our mother for providing, So he'll take the aspen trees, and he has to do very little shaping on the inside. So when I was looking at the drum, I noticed there was a hole in the side of the drum. And he was explaining to me, he said, that's the heart. That's the heartbeat of the drum, right in, that's the heart of the drum. And he said, this, with the tree and the skins, it's a living thing, the drum is a living thing, and we use it for our prayers, when we sing our songs, and there's, you treat it with very high respect, and in our culture, there's the ceremonial drums, there's 4 drums that they use, and they're kept in certain places. And my uncle Ray Sayo, he has one of the drums at his house that they use in the kiva for ceremony. And so when it's time for that drum to come out, they'll let him know, and then they bring it out, and then they have a little rug, and they put it out and they feed it. They use cornmeal, and then they put they feed it with the spirit bowl. They put food in there, and they feed the entities, they feed the spirits. And then when the time comes, then the kiva leaders and the what they call the meromas, the village officers, they'll come over, and they make their offerings, and they make their prayer, and they ask for permission to take the drum for ceremony. And they'll take it in, they take it from his house, from his home, and then they'll take it over to the kiva. And then when they bring it in, they announce that the drum is coming in. They'll hit the drum one time, boom, really loud, and it lets the entities that within the kiva that are always there, it lets them know that this drum is home, and it's going to be used, for prayer, for ceremony. And then they have special places in the kiva for the drums to sit, and then people, the singers, we make the offering to the drum, and and when we're out in the plaza singing, and when we're done with when the songs are done for that little section, then the singers will all take their hand and rub their hand on the skin of the drum, and then they'll bless their throat. They'll rub, so to stay strong, to be strong for this, because there's going to be another long round of singing. It's going to be all day long. So and then when everything concludes for the day, and then they take the drum back into the kiva, and everybody says their prayers, and they because the drum is now going back, so they'll take the drum back to where it originated from my uncle's house, and they'll put it back on the rug, and then they'll feed it. They'll leave it there because they have to let it rest, because it's been working, and it's usually the preparations are a week long, so it's been working all week long. So they'll let it rest overnight, and they'll feed it and everything, and then at sunrise the next morning they'll take the spirit bowl out with the food and everything. They'll take it out into nature, and then they'll feed the entities, they'll feed the spirit, and then they'll come back in, and then they'll take the drum and put it back in its place until the next time, and let it sleep until the next time that it's going to come out again for ceremony. So it's a very, very magical, very spiritual thing. And these things, as I started to get more involved in learning more in our traditional ways, this is one of the things that it really I hold in my heart, because and I not only the cultural aspect of it, but it's the music aspect of it. Because like as instrumentalists, when we look at when we have our horns here, these project part of us. It's just a piece of metal, and it comes from our Mother Earth. But what we put through it that's where the spirituality comes from, and I don't know, some people, some of my acquaintances, as I went through my career, I talked to my horn, and I have a name for my horn, and they, lady sweets, or whatever. And some people laugh, and I said, don't laugh, man, because this is a piece of magic right here, and the Creator has given me a gift. And this is the purpose the Creator has for me, and that's to produce the healing magic, the healing power of music.
My horn was feeling lonely and unloved while you were giving that last little bit there. Yeah. So I went and got it. And this is I don't know if it's cool to mention like product endorsement, but I'm very proud to say that for over 20 years now, I've had a beautiful relationship with the Yamaha Corporation of Japan. And this particular trumpet was designed by the man who lives here in Albuquerque, who's my mentor and my close friend, Bobby Shu, helped design this horn. And yeah, I mean, I was married for 17 years. She's the mother of my daughter, and we have a great friendship. I'm blessed to be able to have that with my daughter's mother. But during the 17 years we were married, she used to always joke around that, but it wasn't really a joke, that that this was my actual wife, and she was actually the side. This,
I've
well,
been through
I'm
that
not going to say the
myself.
word. She was actually the mistress. There, that's a much nicer term than
The side
term-
squeeze.
The side, right? Yeah, but so I totally get it, man. I mean, this these have, like, we're the ones that infuse it with our breath, the breath of life that we put into these things. But they are from the earth. They're natural elements, and there is a personality that they have and a vibration that they have. And it's funny when I'll talk about that. Yeah. When I decide I want to get a new horn, Yamaha will usually graciously set me up in a room with about 4 or 5 of the exact same model. And Yamaha is known for being very, very consistent with their craftsmanship, and it's very difficult. The horns are they play so similar, but again, like what Dave was talking, I'll go in and I'll just relax, and I'll spend time with each horn, and the horn will end up choosing me. And that's been the case all along. And Dave, as Dave just pointed out, so I first saw these kind of valve buttons on Bobby Shu's trumpet. These are natural turquoise, and of course turquoise has a lot of metaphysical properties that is beyond my scope to really go into here, but I've studied a little bit about it, and about the protection, right, that turquoise can offer. And these are made by a company in northern Washington state, a gentleman named Thane Trumpets, and he manufactured these for me and used beautiful selected turquoise. But anyhow, I'm blessed. I just actually took delivery of these right before I left for Albuquerque, and I got to show them to Bobby. Yeah.
So so forgive us while we geek out on these instruments for a little bit.
Yeah.
So
and now you know why I'm probably divorced.
So I just want to real quick talk about the history of how I got this horn. And I see my sister's on, so she's going to have to remind me of the name of the person in Winslow where I got this. So this trombone, this is an old, like a 1963 Olds recording trombone. So the gentleman, the original owner of this horn, he was a very good trombone player, from what I understand, in high school, and then he went to college for music. He studied music for 2 years, and he graduated from high school in '65. He went to school to study music, and he was in college for 2 years, and this was during Vietnam. So he ended up going into the service after 2 years of college. He went into I believe it was the Merchant Marines, and he put this horn away. He put it away in his back in the case and stuck it back in the closet, and then eventually it ended up in a storage room. Well, unfortunately, this gentleman, he passed away earlier this year, and his sister was going through his stuff, and she found this horn, and she contacted my sister Denise in Winslow and asked if she could donate it to the schools. And so my sister sent me a picture of it. So I started doing research on this horn with this particular serial number, and I found out when it was made. And so he was the original owner of this trombone, and it has a great history. I mean, it was used in the LA area a lot by the pro musicians. And so I told my sister, I was like, don't, I would be reluctant to donate it to the schools because I believe some of the school kids might really beat it up. And this is it's a really nice vintage trombone and it's in great shape. And so she, she sent me pictures of it. And and this gentleman's sister, I told her, I, I will, I will take that horn from you. If you allow me to purchase it from you, I will purchase it from you, and I would be honored to breathe life back into this. So they brought it, and it hadn't been played since 1968, or 67. It had been sitting in a closet. So I pulled it out and I started playing it, and it responded. We responded well together. So I wanted to take it out one time, out into public. So I drove up to Flagstaff, and my son, who is a percussionist and is a drummer and has a jazz jam up in Flagstaff, I took it up and I sat in with him, and I played a few tunes on this horn, and then when that night was over, I put it back, and it sits here, and I play it from time to time, but I just wanted to get it out into public one more time, and I only use it in the house, and I told my wife, I said, I don't think this horn is meant to be taken out like that anymore, so I'll play it here in the house, so it was just the feeling of being able to breathe life back into, and to get that the energy and the real deep feeling of being able to breathe life back into this horn again was really, really special, man, really magical, so thank you for finding me, that's the way I think of it,
What a beautiful story.
yeah. So yeah, and as I found out more, that gentleman, I was in the Kappa Kappa Psi music fraternity, he was a Kappa Kappa Psi brother, so we share that connection, so it was really cool, to get a hold of that.
So what are some of the other instruments that we demonstrate on the video?
So yeah, so we're done geeking out now, so we'll so the rattles, and ceremonial, we use the rattles. So the rattles are actually found in just about every culture in the world, used for ceremony, for song, during a song and dance, and they will signal like the change in the song, the shaking of the rattle the different sections of the song, or the direction in which the dancers are going to be turning or dancing,
There's a beautiful tradition of rattle use with the tribes in California, and the vocal accompaniments that go along with it. They're called bird songs, and I learned about this when I was working for IHS, and they showed us some amazing videos of and I don't remember there being a whole lot of drumming with these groups. It was mostly they were mostly doing just rattles and singing, and it was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. So, and it could be different for different tribal communities, the concept and the way the rattles are used. I know some they're used to cleanse, to chase away the bad entities, when they use them, when they shake, the shaking of the rattles, and then also to bring forth the good entities, the spirits, to call them in, so I know that, like, in the social dances in Laguna Pueblo, they call it the Dadawai, when the dancers make a turn, what I see it as, that they stick the rattle out and they'll shake it, and the way I see it is they're letting the entities know, okay, we're going this way, follow this way. It's the same way going around a corner, like when you have when we pray with the cornmeal, when you go around a corner, you sprinkle your cornmeal there, and it leads the entities in that direction, you know. And these are things that, you know, I picked up when I started getting more and more involved in culturally, because, you know, like we were being in the Navy, we went in our music careers, we went away for a long time, you know, and we were, oh, you know, I know for me, I was away from the culture for a long time. And so it was at a point where, you know, I stopped learning that because I
Well,
wasn't near it.
you know, what's interesting for me though, in my personal story, so I wasn't raised with any Jewish knowledge or Jewish culture, nothing. You know, I knew I identified as a Jew, and I experienced a hate crime when I was in junior high. A kid had, found out I was Jewish and carved a swastika on my locker and put a death threat in, but I didn't have any knowledge of my like actual traditions or ceremony or anything. And it wasn't until I got to Japan, actually, and my daughter was born. And I looked down at her face and I realized that there was a whole lot going on that I wasn't even aware of. And that for me, you know, the first place for me that just seemed to kind of make sense to try to tap into, try to figure out what this mystery of life was all about was Judaism. And there was a synagogue, the little tiny little synagogue on base in Yokosuka, they didn't have a rabbi, but they had an incredible library. And so I just started spending a lot of free time in the library and just started teaching myself, you know. And so for me, actually going to Japan and being there and having that time when we weren't out on the USS Blue Ridge and being home, was a time that it actually like germinated for me, and my spiritual practice developed in Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah, and that's one of the things, you know, with our experience in the Navy and just being taken into different cultures and different areas, different geographical areas of the world, you just don't know what you're going to come across. And the things that we've seen and the things that we've learned, you know, one of the things that said when somebody gets out of the military, gets or retires from the Navy, they read this passage, and it talks about how we've gone to places and been and seen cultures that most people will never experience, you know. And so being able to experience different cultures and different cultural music and meeting these people and looking at being able to listen to the way they describe their practices and their healing practices is we're very fortunate, you know. And it's amazing how similar, you know, a lot of these things are.
There's a lot more similarities than there are differences. So many people spend so much time and energy focusing on the differences, but you know, I studied Zen Buddhism for a while, and you know, I still have a sitting practice that I do, and it's amazing how many similarities I discovered between like Buddhist theology and like Hasidic, you know, Jewish mysticism, you know, not necessarily mainstream Jewish thought, but sort of more the mystical side. And when you get into that mystical side and all the connections that I've also found and made between Native American spirituality and some of the basic tenets that as I have come to understand them, and they're almost direct counterparts to like Kabbalah and the Jewish mystical tradition that we've had for thousands of years. I mean, the similarities are just, every time I read something, I'm just absolutely astounded. Like, wow, that's exactly the same as what we can find here, you know, across cultures.
Yeah. And, you know, and just yesterday, you know, we were talking about the meaning of there was a symbol I asked about, and I'll just talk briefly about it because there are some things in like the Native culture that where they take place and what actually takes place is not allowed to be spoken about. But there's a particular symbol that I saw yesterday. And
so I took Dave to a small little synagogue here in Albuquerque that I discovered when I was here for Yom Kippur. Just a little bit of background, and it's called Nahalat Shalom, and it's a beautiful, beautiful community. It's a very progressive synagogue. A lot of hippies, which I totally vibe with, and the politically right in my lane. Anyhow, they've happened to notice there's a stained glass window from a synagogue that was rescued from a synagogue from Philadelphia, and it's got, if you're Jewish, you'll know exactly what this is. This is the blessing of the Kohanim, and of the original 12 tribes, the Kohens and the Levites were tasked with taking care of all the day-to-day activities in the first and the second temples that we had in Jerusalem. And at one point, after the destruction of the temple by the Roman Empire, the Kohanim and the Levites, they kind of, their jobs were sort of shifted and changed. So today, what they'll do is they'll invite Levites and Kohanim up onto the synagogue. We call it a bima, but it's the platform, the raised platform. And at the end of the service, they put a prayer shawl over them, and you're not supposed to look directly at them. And then they do this with their hands and they bless the congregation. It's a beautiful, beautiful tradition that we have. But there's definitely a similarity of you're not supposed to look at them, and they're not supposed to, there isn't supposed to be any kind of eye contact, and the whole thing with the prayer shawl over the head when the blessing is taking place.
Yeah, and I can't talk about what we do, but there is something that's similar in our culture. But it's one of those things that remains, that only those who go through it get to see. So, but there is something similar with the covering, so
Yeah,
and that's about all I can say about that. Let's see, we're gonna sing for you here in a second.
Okay.
So
maybe should I talk about the shofar for real quick, or should I?
Oh yeah, because that's in the video too. So he's gonna show you an instrument real quick, and it's something that's in the video that we haven't talked about yet.
So again, in my religious and spiritual tradition, we have musical instruments, horns, that were created that date back thousands of years, and in fact they're mentioned 72 times in what you would probably call the Old Testament. For us, it's the only Testament, the original Hebrew scriptures. They're actually mentioned 72 times, and they're called shofars, and they're used in ceremony today, primarily during Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, which are the two holiest, most sacred days in the Hebrew calendar. And specifically on Rosh Hashanah, it's blown 100 times. There are 100 different places where the shofar is blown. And I don't know if I told, maybe I did tell you this, but I had the honor of being what was called the Baal Tekiah, or the Jewish duty bugler for High Holy Day services at the beautiful, beautiful synagogue that they have at the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. And so during the time that I spent there as a member of the Naval Academy Band, I sounded the 100 different calls during Rosh Hashanah. And then at the end of Yom Kippur, it's a 10-day period marked with fasting and lots of prayer, and you're spending a lot of time with your congregation, with your community in the synagogue. And on Yom Kippur, the service ends with one long blast of the shofar. But like I said, these are very, very ancient tools and instruments, and they used to be used quite a bit in the first and the second temple in Jerusalem. This particular one, you'll hear both of them on the recording. This particular one is from the horn of a ram, and they both come from Israel. But this one is typical of what you'd find with the Yemenite Jewish people of Northern Africa. This is a Yemenite shofar, and it's from a kind of antelope. And I wish I knew the exact species, but unfortunately I don't. But it's a beautiful, beautiful horn. They both sound beautiful, and I hope you'll enjoy it later on in the video.
Let me see. So the next one of the other instruments that we demonstrate, well, there's tuning forks that are.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You know what I never discussed? I never discussed the reason why. So, and the symbolism behind, and I'll just make this real quick. So the shofar blast it's supposed to cleanse. It cleanses the synagogue, and it cleanses our own spirits of all the negative energy and negative crap that we've accumulated over the entire year. In fact, the whole Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur is a period of cleansing. And the shofar, specifically the vibrations from the shofar, are used in this both, cleansing, spiritual cleansing of the space, and the spiritual cleansing that takes place of our own neshamas, which is Hebrew for our own souls. Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry to interrupt, Dave.
No sweat.
That was like the important part that I forgot.
Yeah. So the other thing so we have wind chimes that we use. So I kind of related that in with the tuning forks that are used for meditation as well. So the way the tuning forks, they're just an aid to help reach that deep relaxation. But we have wind chimes that we use in a recording at the end that kind of emulates, like, if you look at the reflection of the light off of water, or maybe the falling snow, the twinkling sounds of the wind chimes, it can represent all these different things. So the way the tuning forks work, there's the music part of it. There's the interval of a perfect fifth is something that's it's used like to reach a higher consciousness, and it's very healing, and it brings a wholeness to the nervous system and balance, to the mind and body. So we can't demonstrate it on instruments because technology, the Zoom technology, won't allow us to do it. But what we're going to do is we're going to sing it for you, and we'll probably sing a few intervals just to kind of demonstrate, because when you listen to music, the way we're taught early on in music, there's sounds for happy, there's sounds for sad, and then there's other intervals that are used, like chaos, that type of thing. So right now we're going to demonstrate.
And don't forget the band interval, the early Catholic Church, the tritone. We'll definitely have to demonstrate that. Yeah. Ooh, 666. Yeah.
So here's our attempt. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is a perfect fifth. This is the meditative. And Steve, hang on, don't fall out on this one. We did this for Steve earlier, and he went into a trance.
He entered into a deep meditative trance.
Okay.
That was a perfect fifth.
So that would be what is known as a perfect fifth. And the fifth, the notes are 5 scale steps away. So da 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 da. So that being the fifth away. So in some of this music you hear, and when you watch movies or you watch TV, and one of the things that you get so involved in the story, we forget to listen to the music that's going on behind, because the music is enhancing whatever is happening during whatever action is going on the screen. So let's do.
How was that sound, Steve? Did it cut out, or was it good?
Okay, I saw him start to fall out. So
good. It wasn't, Zoom wasn't cutting out. That's
yeah.
good.
So we'll we'll try to demonstrate happy here for you. So this would be a major third triad. So da da da. So da. So we'll start do again happy, major third, and then he'll move down a half step and it'll be sad. Okay, ready?
And it's also the beginning of a very famous AC/DC song. You know? Oh, okay. I was going to ask you to see if it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I bet Jim knows that one.
All right. Anyhow, all right.
Ignore me. Okay, let's try the dissonant, the tritone.
Tritone. Okay, all right. Sorry. So that is that was the band interval by the early church that composers such as Bach and Mozart had to avoid at all costs, literally at all costs.
Yes.
And that one cut out a little bit, guys. The
did?
last two, as soon as it got to
I'll try
that
to sing
higher
it.
octave, it just shut you guys down. So
I'll try. Let's do it softer.
Yeah, we'll try it again.
I'll do it softer.
Okay. Nope.
it just cut it out. Let me take my let me mute my mic because that might be what's happening. Let me try and mute mine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, it doesn't want to go, fellas. It's just this is what we ran into in rehearsals. Was anytime we tried to do any kind of live sound, it cut out. I even have my mic set to minimal noise reduction.
We weren't having any problems till we got to the tritone.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why. Maybe
That's some kind of divine intervention there or
Maybe,
something.
yeah.
Don't play that last bit backwards.
Yeah. So I think right now we can play that video of the instrument demo. It's just about it's just a short 2, 3, 4 minute video of us just playing these things. Reduce Australian. This one is from Townsville, Australia. This one is from Darwin, Australia.
Dave has more air than I do.
Okay. The rain stick, this rain stick is from Singapore. So these sound sticks they're known as claves in the Latin music that we hear. But sound sticks, these ones in particular are from Darwin, Australia. Now the frog sounds are from, these particular frogs are from Thailand that I picked up in Phuket, Thailand. And there are two different pitches. So, and you'll hear in the video later these together. They sound like they're talking. And these chimes, wind chimes, these particular wind chimes are made out of aluminum, but you'll hear this in the video later. And these kind of can emulate the stars, or emulate the what the water looks like with the light coming off of them.
Talk about this?
Okay.
Where did you get it?
Washington State.
Washington State?
Yeah.
This is Dave's conch, which he has graciously allowed me to play for you. These are shofars. They're mentioned 72 times in the Old Testament. And this one is a Yemenite shofar from northern Africa. This is a ram's horn shofar. This is the most traditional of the shofar. And this is usually played loud, but I will demonstrate it both soft and loud. And in the synagogue service, these are the three different calls that are used. Tekiah, Shevarim Teruah, Tekiah Gedolah.
Okay, these sound bowls. I'll demonstrate the big one first. This is hand blown glass. So when you allow these to resonate, they will last a very long time and used in a for a meditation. So what we'll do now is we're experimenting a little earlier and decided we're going to try all these things together, and we discovered that the pitches, they form a happy chord, a major third triad. So,
And if you're a musician, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a sixth and then resolve it down to the fifth of the major triad. Wait. Okay. I needed to remember which shofar was the sixth. Okay.
two musician geeks having fun.
The rattle.
The next ceremonial rattle that we use in the Pueblos and many of the native cultures, many other cultures around the world, this is a gourd, made from a gourd.
And Dave, I just noticed this, but the beautiful painting, the design on it, does it look familiar to you?
Star.
A Jewish star.
Okay, I have 3 different drums. I have 2 hand drums that were made by one was made by my son Kai, and one was made by my wife Christine. They are different pitched. And this is a Pueblo ceremonial drum that was made by Glenn Shalon in Cochiti, Pueblo. If you can notice, there's a hole. This is made from aspen. There's a hole here, and this is where the heart of the drum is. It's made from aspen and cowhide. And what I'll do for you now is demonstrate an eagle song, a social song that's been used out of the Pueblo for a long time.
beyond that, we'll begin our boarding process on time here in just about 5 minutes.
Got it down, Dave.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, so that was our brief demonstration. I wish we could have done them live, but the the technology was not allowing us to do it. We tried and tried different ways, and so we just had to finally take a few minutes and just make a video.
One thing that we noticed, Dave just pointed out, is like, especially with the ceremonial Pueblo drum, it doesn't really, the microphone doesn't really capture the depth of sound. And so, yeah, I mean, we would love to be able to demonstrate this live.
Yeah. So ideally, this is the live version of this is different.
Yeah. And it affects, I think it will affect people on a spiritual level differently than watching it on a screen.
Yeah. So Steve, we're coming close to time. So I think we can just go ahead and for comments or questions or anything.
Yes. Yeah, we've had a few, I've been trying to watch the chat. Carol B is asking if they can find your music on YouTube by using your names, or how do you find that?
Well, we have, there's things on YouTube that we're involved in, not together, but in other entities. I think if you just I'm guessing if you just Google it or research it on YouTube, because I know there's videos of me playing in groups that I didn't know was up there. If there's some other things like personal YouTube channels that my wife has, Keljive, Keljive, that her channel on YouTube has a lot of the stuff that we've done personally. And then there's like, I've seen other like Navy band and other professional groups that I've played in on YouTube. But as far as this particular format, this is the first. You guys are at the inception of this.
Yeah. And the music that I composed that you heard at the beginning, Where Thunder Finds Her, that has not been released. The entire thing has not been released. You folks were literally the first like wider audience to hear a little snippet of that. I'm hoping to release it at some point. I am on a lot of commercially available DVDs and downloads. Just go to www.towerofpower.com. I'm on the 40th anniversary live DVD and a bunch of other stuff. So you can, if you search Iron Mike Bogart, that's my stage name. Yeah, Iron Mike Bogart trumpet, Iron Mike Bogart Tower of Power, whatever, you'll probably run across a bunch of stuff that I probably wish wasn't on there. But
yeah. So one of the Mike brings a point. So one of the things that I've seen on the Tom Pearson Big Band Live on YouTube, that's a big band I played in Japan. I know that full show is up on YouTube.
We've got a couple more minutes. Let's see if there's anybody else that has any questions.
Yeah, I just opened the floor up if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question to Dave or Mike. Do that. I know, Dave, somebody asked about how to contact the drum maker you referenced.
Oh, okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, Glenn Shalon up in Coche de Pueblo.
You want to put the information in the chat, maybe?
Can
you? Or you know what? Maybe they can reach out to Steve.
Yeah, if you email me.
Yeah, I'll throw your email in the chat. How about that, Dave?
Okay. Okay. So the way we want to finish this out is, so we demonstrated all those instruments, all the instruments for you that we as humans have used to emulate different sounds of nature. So what we did is we put together um, that using all those sounds, and then I wrote a song, and this song comes from something when I was, from my own recovery. I'm coming up on 18 years in recovery. So when I was in rehab, I was challenged. My counselor challenged me to write a song. His concern was that, when I left rehab, that I going back into the same field of music might be a detriment to to my growth, my healing. So we figured out a way to make it work for me, you know. So he charged me with writing a song. So I use it as a meditation song for myself, and I know I've shared it on a web a couple of times here. And so what we did is we got together and we made a recording of me playing, and then when Mike came, we added him into the recording. So what we want to do is we'll finish out with this recording, and it's the premise behind it is is for healing and meditation, and just to reflect, on anything that we are working on ourselves, and um, use it use it in your own good way, however the thoughts, the prayers, or anything that you want to put into the energy of the song. um, so and that's one of the things, every time we play a song, even if it's the same song, there's a different thing that goes into it. There's a different prayer, different feeling. So I use it almost every day, at night, when the day is over and I'm getting ready to turn in, and it's late at night, it's quiet, and sometimes I'll just put in a silent mute, and I'll play through it, just to help me relax. So I think we can. Um, well, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. And this has been a thought process and a project long time coming, and I'm glad that we finally got to get this thing, got to get it going.
Yes.
And I hope that, I wish everybody well, Dewey shots, because be well and smile, and Hashjame, Gome, be strong, Hashjame is for the men, Gome is for the women, so um, I wish you all well, and to use your power, and to be strong as you continue on your journey, and we always, as musicians, as anybody, we rely on music. It's a grounding source, so and whatever your flavor of music, everybody has something that they can turn to. Sometimes for me it's Rush. I love Rush. Or a good dose of AC/DC helps too. Or some Pink Floyd. Great Gig in the Sky. you know
Oh, well, Dave and Mike, I want to thank you guys so much, and I also want to thank the viewers for staying on. 2 hours is a long time in Zoom time, so I really appreciate that. I think there's probably a part two in the making here, so stay tuned for that at some point, maybe after the holiday stuff in early 23. We might do a part two follow up to this. So.
I would,
Uh,
yes.
so Dave, do you want to play this last? Is it the second demo, instrumental demo, or is it the one titled Bogey Song?
No, not that one.
no,
Okay,
it's the last
yeah.
video.
Let's see if I can get this one.
Yeah, it's
Let's see.
entitled. I don't
So
know.
far, I haven't broken anything. So let's see if I can pull this off here. Here we go.
That's the one.
Yep.
Yeah, here we go. Are we ready for this, Dave?
Yeah. So
Okay,
go
great.
ahead and offer whatever prayer you want to offer during this. So it works
Thank
best with headphones.
Thank you, guys. Thank you again, everybody. We'll be signing on for a virtual native talking circle in about 20 minutes. So if you feel like it, take a short break and join us for that. Otherwise, we'll see you again real soon. And I'll talk with Dave and Mike about doing a part two, and we'll continue this conversation.